I'm Sherry Phillips Mitchell, and thank you for visiting my farmhouse today. You probably already know I've recently published a book of all my farm girl stories of growing up on the farm. I've been a farm girl for a real long time. In 1962, I was 4 years old, and my dad purchased a farm in Highland County here in southern Ohio and fulfilled his dream of owning a farm someday. Well, I just took to it like butter and honey on a buttermilk biscuit. I loved it. I always have. Some days not so much. But that was the beginning of really the stories. I started living on the farm, had a little pony, had dogs, had a wonderful calico cat, loved the animals, the pasture, just all kinds of things going on and learning along the way. When we moved from that farm, Dad fulfilled his dream again, and Mom hers too, because we were getting a big farmhouse this time, where before we had a little white clapboard farmhouse, a story and a half. This time we had a big 2-story Victorian farmhouse with gingerbread and a huge red barn. So Dad was stepping up in the world in his fulfillment of his dream. That was in 1967, and I started attending Green Bush Elementary School. And during that time, we got to go to the library. It was our first time. We were schooled on how to go to the library, how to check out a book, and how long you could have a book checked out. And I remember to this day walking into that one room. It probably wasn't 12 by 15. Lined with books, and I thought, wow, somehow that resonated with me. I wasn't a huge fan of books prior to that. It wasn't like I knew all about books, but that day I did. And right inside the door to the left, I still remember, right at my eye level, I was introduced to Laura Ingalls Wilder and the Little House in the Big Woods. And that day, from that day forward, I said, I want to be a writer like her. That thought never left me. Now, many things in my life got in the way. Many things. Children, marriage, high school, work, you name it. All kinds of little things would come along, and I didn't get those stories wrote as fast as I would have liked to. I was living all of those stories throughout the years on the farm, and tucking those away in my heart and in my mind. After I got my children raised, over and over again, that just kept coming back to me. You need to write those stories. Last year, my sister Debbie, who I write about in the book, my farmhouse journal, Memories and Recipes, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And my friend called me up one day. She was on her way home, and she said, Sherry, I have a word for you. I said, what is that? She said, you need to write that book. Well, we were all hopeful that everything was going to go well with my sister, but just in case it wasn't going to go well, I knew I could not put off or procrastinate any longer. I had to write the book. So the year that she has the cancer, I'm at home writing every chance I can, which really that was harder than birthing a baby. There's a lot more to it than what meets the eye to get your thoughts out of your mind and onto the paper. But I did accomplish that. You cannot let your mind be swayed. You have to say, yes, I'm going to write 3 pages today. Yes, I'm going to write a chapter a month. I mean, you have to do like anything. You have to create a goal. You have to make yourself do it. Now, if you have something like I did with Debbie, that really helps you stay focused. You know, oftentimes I've said this, when we're looking at something that we want to get done, at the barn when we're driving a pony and we're putting on the harness and we're hooking him up to the cart, one of the first things that you do is you put on a bridle that has a set of blinders. Okay? And the blinders are so that the distractions don't matter. The horse or the pony cannot look left or right. Can't look left or right, and he cannot see what is behind him because that is fearful. You know, for me, sometimes it was saying, you know, look at all this time that I've wasted. You know, okay, well, just chalk it up to I'm not going to get that done. But when I heard that, you know, don't die with your story inside of you, or don't die with your song inside of you, or don't die with, you know, this carpentry skill that you have and you're wanting to make something, whatever it is, don't die with that inside of you. You have to put those blinders on. You have got to stay focused. And, you know, our thought in this world, there's too much to focus on, truly, truly. There's too much going on all the time. At least that's my take on it. I mean, there's just too much distracting. And when you have a creative energy like painting or writing books or whatever you're creating, doing movies or stories, you've got to stay focused. So those blinders, if we could all put on those blinders, it would help immensely to stay focused. But just setting something on the calendar, 3 pages, 1 chapter, however many chapters. You know, first of all, I had to set how many chapters I thought I might have. Stories. I had to pick up stories. And you got to whittle that down. Create and do just as you would if you were doing a job, setting up office. You have to get organized and you have to be disciplined. And how do you do that? You make a plan and you write the plan down and you try to follow the plan. And if you fall off of the plan or fall off of the wagon, don't get discouraged and not get back to it. That's the easy part. Fall off. Next thing you know, 6 months has gone by and you haven't written a word, or you haven't painted, or you haven't done something that you want to do. Those are the things that you have to put in front. They're the priority. Everybody at the publishing company knew my story. I have a sister with stage 4 cancer. This book is about her and myself, and I need this sooner than not. So everyone in the marketing department and in any department I talked to, I said, my sister's got stage 4 cancer. How can I jump through these hoops faster? I know you're telling me it takes 2 weeks. How can I do 10 days? Could I do a week? Is there anything I can do to hurry this process along? And they all felt for me, and they would do what they could. As her health declined, but not terribly, I was even more in a rush, and I said, how far out are we? Well, and you get the run on, and 2 weeks here, and the guy approves this, then you've got to get it back to you. And I'm like, oh, please hurry this along. I just left it in God's hand at that point. There was nothing that I could do to make Sister better. There was nothing more I could do to get the book written. And believe it or not, the book came just my author's copy, which is not the copy that goes out to the world. It's the one you look at and look for things that you want to change. But they were able to make that happen for me just before Christmas. So I wrapped it up in the book. Debbie knew I was working on the book. She did not know I was dedicating it to her. She did not know that I was trying to push this as hard as I could to get it to her so she could enjoy it while she was feeling well. And I wrapped it all up with a big ginormous bow, and I took it up Christmas morning. And she knew I was coming, and she was all dressed up, all cute. And I handed it to her, and she said, oh, what is this? I didn't say a word. She took the bow off, and she unwrapped it, and she looked at it, and she rubbed her hand over it, and she said, it's a real book. I guess she thought it might have yarn for the binder, or, you know, those things that you do back in elementary school that she probably had taught me how to make a book that way. She rubbed the pages, she flipped through it, she looked at the pictures. We took a really nice picture of her and myself, and then her, myself, and my mom, who my mom and dad, of course, are integral in these stories. And that was a good day. That was a day that God answered my prayer. Her daughter took the book down to chemo and read the stories to her, because at that time, doing something tedious like reading wore her out more than she already was wore out. And they told me that the nurses would come around and say, oh, yeah, my mom made that recipe. Oh, yeah, that's got to be the right red cake recipe, the red velvet. Mine's called Ohio State Red Cake, but they knew there were certain things. And so it became the talk when Debbie would go to chemo that they would come around and hear the stories. Yeah, we did that too. We rolled down the hill in barrels, and yes, we did this or that, and they connected with us. So I'm ever so thankful that the book did get published and that she was able to see it and feel it and enjoy it and to reminisce with me when I went to visit with her of the things that we did growing up on the farm. I was almost 4 years younger than her. And one day we're out in the barn lot playing and she spies a metal barrel. Now I don't know where the barrel came from. Dad must have brought it home from Ford Motor Company or something. She says, "Oh, there's a barrel." Well, okay. You know what we can do with that? No, I don't. We can take that out and we can get in it and we can roll down the hill. Sounded like a good plan to me. Sounded like fun. She did it with such enthusiasm. So 2 little farm girls rolling a barrel out across the pasture field to the only little hill we have on the entire farm was a very tedious task, but we made it. And she tells me to get inside while she gets ready to jump inside and we'll roll down the hill. Well, that wasn't going to work because it kept trying to roll while she tried to get in. So we had to get out and I had to push it up. She gets in and we're rolling down the hill. I'm on the inside, mind you, while it's probably 90 degrees and it's like an oven in there. And as we go down the hill, I feel like clothes in the clothes dryer. Our jaws are clapping together. We're hitting bumps because it was a cow pasture and there were bumps in the road or the hill. And we're end over end over end, and finally we hit with a thud into the dry creek bed below. I didn't find it really fascinating. She thought it was great fun. But I told her I wasn't doing it again unless I was on the outside of the barrel. She could be on the inside of the barrel. And I think it was just that moment of going back and forth with her and wanting to change it up. I was quite persuasive usually. She knew I'd set my feet in solid ground. I wasn't doing it again. But pushing that barrel back up the hill wore us out. I got to be the one to jump in last and go down the hill. I found it quite exhilarating then. She not so much. We argued over who would be on the outside again and then pretty much just decided we were hungry. So forget the barrel and off we went. I don't know why that is so funny to me. That is just one of the humorous stories. Of just how we were. We saw a barrel and we had great fun with the barrel. And it was all fun, you know. It's just 2 little farm girls. We see a dream, set a goal, dream about it, want to do it. Maybe lack of not knowing exactly how to do it. You know, not anyone in my family is a writer, so how do you write? You write it down, but is that good enough? What does that mean? What do you do with it? I've written all my life, not all my life, but in my early motherhood years, I started a journal, and I've written journals. I said to my husband, if I die before you, you make sure nobody goes up there in my office and starts throwing my stuff away. I've got journals all over the place, journals upon journals of writing what's happening in my life, the challenges I've overcome, heartaches, heartbreak. I mean, I've had them just like everybody else. Wonderful moments in my life. But with the writing, I would get real serious about it, and then something would just veer me off course, and I wouldn't write. I wouldn't pursue it further. Sadly, it did take my sister getting cancer to make me get real serious about that. So that was probably the challenge that I am so glad. It took 50 years to finally make it happen. But my mom brought us up with this. If at first you don't succeed, try again. So do it over again. It kept coming back to me. At times I'd think, oh, I'm not going to write. Who's going to read? It's too hard. I'm not going to do that. But it kept coming back. You need to do that. You need to write. The nudge from my friend. You need to write this book. Just out of the blue, she's driving down the road and calls me up. You need to write this book. And so I did. So I would say in everybody's life, don't procrastinate. Don't die with your book inside of you, as Wayne Dyer says. Whatever your dream is, don't die with it inside of you. Pursue it. Make that your priority. I think that I want my readers, or anybody who's associated with me, to look at learn, because it's not always instilled in us, to look at the glass half full. Some that comes very easy, some it does not. I say in everything that I do, most generally, if you read or follow along with me, is take joy. It's there for the taking. You can say the glass is half empty and you can go downhill, 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 because you're choosing to look at it that way. Or you can say, you know, my glass is half full. It is half full. My cup runneth over. And count your blessings and take the joy. Because somebody is always worse off than you are. Always. My sister had the cancer. You know, her husband got cancer too, at the same time. We thought we were the only people in the entire world that 2 people in the same household would get cancer. It's not true. There's other people out there with cancer that have a husband and a wife in the same household with cancer, and maybe her ending was better than theirs. So we felt like our glass was half full even in that. My dad has been my biggest inspiration. I don't want to discount anybody else, but growing up on the farm, I sensed that he took me under his wing, especially to teach me. I can still remember to this day when he said, Sherry, what goals have you made? I was probably all of 15, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Hadn't really thought about goals. Is goals in the dictionary? How do you spell goals? I was just living my little farm girl life. So he explained that to me. In fact, I was standing, I can tell you right where I was standing, outside of the big green farmhouse. I'd just come out of the smokehouse. And he asked me that question. And he said, in this life, you have to have goals and you have to make plans if you're going to achieve what you want to achieve in this life. So I think that day, he inspired me more than he knew. More than he knew. Secondly, I have to say that probably my husband is the wind beneath my wings, because he has always encouraged me. He's never gotten in the way of anything that I've wanted to do over the years. And that's real important. That's real important. You need people who encourage you. For that moment when you want to say your glass is half empty, you need that person to say, oh no, your glass is half full. It's half full. And that's the kind of person that he is. He's very... he's that kind of guy that picks you up when you feel like you're falling down. So those 2 people are extremely inspirational to me. My mom taught me all that I knew in the farmhouse. I was the girl who liked to dash out after supper and go out and be with my horses and romp around on the farm, and I'll still not forget the day that she looked at me and said, where are you going, young lady? And I said, out? She said, I think it's time that you start learning how to take care of the kitchen and help clean up. And I was like, oh boy. But I had to learn that side, right? I had to learn that. I learned how to cook, I learned how to can, I learned how to do laundry, I learned all that stuff. And I'm glad that she took the time to do that. I felt good about myself when I left home for all that my parents taught me how to do. I think kids are lacking in that now. I truly do. I think that parents are just so busy. Maybe it's making a living, or maybe it's talking about how empty their glass is. I don't know. I just think that we've lost the basic things that parents need to do for their children. Who are my readers? Well, it doesn't have to be someone who grew up on a farm. In fact, I just delivered a book to a lady in Hamersville, not far from here, that I kind of knew her family. She didn't grow up on a farm, but she visited her grandparents' farm. And she connects with all of my stories, and she loves, I write for the Brown County Press every week, and have been doing that for, I think it's almost 3 years now. And much of it touches on my farm girl life, and some connected with what's going on today in my life. And she enjoys that. Some are mothers who have children, and they remember all the things that I did growing up on the farm, and they connect because they did the same. They did the same. The older generation can connect really well with what I write, but yet the gal that helped me with the book doing some proofreading, said, I read your stories with tears of joy. I read your story with tears of sadness. And some of your anecdotes that you have after each of your stories really touched home with me. There were some things I need to take in account with my own life that I need to do. She's under 40. I read my stories to my grandchildren, and they get a kick out of what we did on the farm. I bet you if somebody sees a barrel, they're going to be pushing that up the hill or down the hill soon, right? So my readers are wide. I'm a country girl at heart. Growing up on the farm, I have farm girl roots. I have some pretty good recipes, I think. I won $2 and a blue ribbon at the Farmers Institute in Beaufort, Ohio, back in the 60s. I think I was about 9 then as well. And they had a cakewalk and a baking contest, and they gave out freebies like little bags of dog food and rulers and just little things related to farming. And I said to Mom, I want to enter my cookies. Now, here's the thing, folks. She could have said, who are you to think that you are going to win this baking contest? You're 9 years old, and it's an oatmeal raisin cookie. But she didn't. She saw that I wanted to. She knew I'd learn from that. And I worked on those cookies, and she took me up. You had to have a plate full with, I think, 12 on there. There were rules. She knew I was learning from reading the little rule book. We took those over to Beaufort the day before so they could be judged. And we were at the Farmers Institute the next evening, having a grand time. And I still remember being in the bleachers, and they were announcing who won the contest. I'd really forgotten that I had entered at that point. And they call out Sherry Phillips, the winner with the oatmeal raisin cookies. And I was frozen. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. I was in shock. And my sister Debbie says, go. I said, go what? She said, go get your prize. So I went. I probably asked her to go with me. I was very shy at the time. We have the horse farm, as everybody knows, and we started in 2003 and hung out a shingle, horse boarding and lessons. And then we started, when my son came back from Texas, the therapeutic horsemanship program, and that was geared more for children with autism. I mean, that really works really good for them. Helps with verbalization and sensory issues and muscle structure, muscle tone, I should say. And then we started learning that being around horses was helpful for veterans. And we got in touch with a local organization who helps veterans, and she had a young lady who was a Marine, and she had checked in with this woman, and this woman had checked in with our program director, and there was a connection made, but it was several months before the physical connection was made. And the girl that came, I say girl, but she's really a woman, mother with 2 children, and her husband is a Marine also still. She finally came to the farm. She wanted to know if this might be something that would help her with her post-traumatic stress, PTSD. And when I was introduced to her, the program director said, I want you to meet Sherry Mitchell. She owns the farm. And I had wanted to meet her to talk with her. And I remember sitting, we had a picnic table in the barn aisle. And I said, hey, Kristen, how are you? And she said, fine. And we sat down, and I didn't get into her story. Her story has worth, but it wasn't something that I needed to know. I knew that the horses and the farm would be her healing if God wanted it to be that way. And I said, well, tell me just a little bit so I know how to identify what is your post-traumatic stress. What does that look like for you? What I didn't expect was, well, I don't like loud noises. That I expected. You know, gunshots. I thought, boy, that's great because the guy up the road, he likes to target practice. Wow. I didn't tell her that. I don't like noises I can't identify. That's just great because when those peacocks sound off down there, it sounds like human beings are in the woods getting hurt. But I'm not going to say that. And she said, and probably I don't like somebody to come up unannounced behind me. And I said, and if they do, what? And she said, I'll probably turn around and grab them by the throat. Boy, I thought, that is interesting. I said, okay, got it. So I said, how about we're looking for a horse angel. We want somebody to come who's going to take care of our geriatric horses, the horses we've used in therapy. They're older now. They've got achy joints. We don't use them so much, but they need their supplements, and they need to be groomed, and they need to be loved. Would you be interested in that? She said, yeah. Now, she had had horses when she was a young girl, but she hadn't had them for a long time. So I worked with her week to week. She would come. I'd show her the ropes. We'd go over things. Sure enough, one day the gun was going off, but she was okay. Sure enough, the peacock right on time one day went off, but she worked through that. It was okay. I never approached her without letting her know I was coming in the barn, and everybody else the same. You know, we were good. And she just fell in love with loving the horses and taking care of the horses. She got her riding seat back. Her 2 little children learned how to ride on one of our old ponies who was almost 30 years old. And that was just wonderful for her. There was a connection now since she had gotten out of the service. And what I didn't know, but she filled me in on, is once they get out of the service, they don't understand what their role is anymore. They just, I mean, they had, everything was structured. They knew what was happening day to day to day, and now what? And then they have those sad things that they bring back home. She was our horse angel for 3 years. Wonderful gal, wonderful girl. When she left, her husband got stationed in California. We hated to see her go, but she had to go. And I said, Kristen, would you mind writing us a letter and telling us what the program has meant to you? And it was a 3-page letter that I had no idea the depth of her wound, an invisible wound, as they say, and how the farm and the horses and just the love and camaraderie that was there at the farm helped her. Because she said, I was at my wits' end, I think is how she worded it. I didn't know that she was like that far down. I didn't know that. She concealed that very well, which a lot of the vets do. They don't tell you, they don't talk about it, and you don't know how heavy their hearts are. But I'm thankful that the farm was here for her, and that the program now that we've developed from that is called First Friday Night Fall-In. So every first Friday of the month, any vet, or get this one, first responders. We forget about those, right? First responders are looking at awful gore every day. Every day they come up on something. That's their job. So they also have a need to work with their post-traumatic stress. So we're thankful that the farm is here and that the horses have this innate quality of being able to help. They can actually be somewhat of a mirror. Somehow they know what shenanigans to pull that day. One of the horses, who has never caused any problem at the farm whatsoever, decided one day he was going to jump over the fence. He caught his back leg in the top thing of the, it's a woven wire fence, caught it up there. His leg was hooked, and he's on the ground on the other side, and his leg is still hung up in the fence. That day, she decided that she would come out and go out in the pasture to get the horses, and came upon the horse. He was still alive. We don't know how long he'd been in the fence. She made the call out to Dan and myself. We both showed up. She and Dan went out, saved the horse, and believe it or not, that was healing for her, because this time she saved the victim, whereas before, some instances in the Marine Corps, she didn't. And I didn't set that up. That horse had never pulled a shenanigan like that before, but that day was for her. That day was for her. And so we're just grateful that we can do that here at the farm. This is my book that I'm very, very proud of. my farmhouse journal, memories and recipes. You can get this if you want to follow along. I have a website, sherryphillipsmitchell.com. On there is a connection to my blog. On there is also a connection as where you can get the book. It's available on all the major bookseller sites and also on Life Rich Publishing, which is a subsidiary of Reader's Digest, that you can find my book. I'd like to just kind of close with a poem that I wrote for my sister. As I told you that it was dedicated to her. And it's called Two Little Farm Girls. Two little farm girls, hearts full of Mary, learning life's lessons, happy and scary. Two little women, hearts full of Mary, living life's journey, happy and scary. Two seasoned women, hearts full of Mary, struggling together with happy and scary. Two little farm girls on the path of the unknown. One day together, someday alone. That was for Debbie. We knew someday that she would leave, but the memories will live on through the written word. We're ever so grateful for the time that we shared on planet Earth and that are recorded in my book. God bless.